Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be doing a bit of a forensic chart reading for one Michael Angelo Aquino. Now, if you don't know who Michael Aquino was, I'm going to do a little bit of reading here from the Wikipedia page on Michael A. Aquino. Michael was born on October 16th, 1946, and died on September 1st of 2019. He was an American political scientist, military officer, and Satanist. He was the founder and high priest of the Temple of Set. Aquino was also a specialist in psychological warfare for military intelligence and an officer of the U.S. Army. So he was, as I said, he was a commissioned officer in the Army, served as a psychological warfare specialist, was deployed in the Vietnam War, served in the Green Berets in the 70s and 80s, and was a part-time NATO liaison officer. He did a satanic ritual at the Wewelsburg Castle in Germany, which was used by the SS and Heinrich Himmler apparently for satanic rituals. So he joined in 1969. He joined the Church of Satan, led by Anton LaVey, and he wound up leaving the Church of Satan in 1975, and he started the Church of Set, which Set, if you're not aware, was a Egyptian deity. He was the dark sun. He was the character who cut Osiris up into 14 pieces and threw them all over Egypt, and then Osiris had to go out and find those pieces with Anubis. Aquino, he did not like the atheism and materialism of the Church of Satan, and he wrote a book, the Book of Coming Forth by Night. And apparently he was given this book through some kind of process of automatic writing. So he's been accused of having been part of Project Monarch, one of the various MK Ultra type programs, which was accused of having taken young people and basically induced a multiple personality disorder and locking the various personalities away from each other so that the individual could only recall the things in the personality that they were in and could not, they could be brought into the other personalities through various trigger words or traumatic events. So Michael Aquino. So let's have a look at his chart. So that's it right there, right up behind, or yes, behind me in there. So we have a Capricorn ascendant, and his ascendant is at the 11th degree of Capricorn in the second decan. And the second decan of Capricorn is ruled by Mars and Venus. It is called by some the Temple Builder decan. It is the decan where you have Mars, great strength, and Mars, of course, is exalted in Capricorn. And he has Mars has the great will to take on huge projects of great devotion. And this is Capricorn, so these are established power, trying to establish or the creation of an ancient and very time-tested type of power, which of course is Setianism, which would be Setian Atonism, which likely goes back to Akhenaten, back to at least to the Amarna dynasty in Egypt. So this, as I said, this decan is ruled by Mars and Venus. Venus gives the artistic vision that's required to make a beautiful structure. And we'll see that Aquino did, in fact, build a church, even if it was not a physical church. He did, in fact, have this incredible strength and vision to do this. The fixed star Vega was a few degrees away from his ascendant, and Vega is known as a star of great magic and also of the underworld of Orpheus and various underworld figures and magic, very much a magic oriented star. Yeah, and it imbues charisma and an otherworldly aspect to the individual. So, next thing we look at is the ruler of the ascendant. So, ascendant is, of course, ruled by Saturn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is to be found in this chart in the, I believe it's the eighth degree of, yes, the eighth degree of Leo. Now, Leo is, of course, ruled by the Sun, and this in this chart, according to whole sign, this would be the eighth house of his chart. If you go by Placidus, it would be the seventh. I would tend to go with the whole sign in this case. The eighth house is highly connected to death, to the collective unconscious. It's a place through which like things can come into your chart that you sort of don't, that maybe don't have, we don't know the source, or things that the person of the, whose chart it is, will have plausible deniability because people won't see that these things are, in fact, part of him or her. So this is Saturn in the first decan of Leo, which is, of course, very leonine, has everything to do with leadership, being seen, and the first decan is ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is in a decanic rule in this chart. The first decan is a place where there's a great spotlight placed upon the individual. And there are great tests, and this is where we need to stand up and show who we truly are. So Saturn is also very closely associated with the god Set. Oh, and I should mention too that the if you go, I got this chart from astro.com, and very strangely, his time of birth was 1234, which is 1234. So I don't know if that's the real time of birth, but this chart makes a great deal of sense. So I would, I'll go with that. And there doesn't seem to be any notes about that being in any way in question. So Saturn here, as I said, is the ruler of the ascendant, and so this is a place of, as I said, very close scrutiny. So this is where we're standing up in front of the world with a spotlight on us, and we're showing if we are in fact good enough. Saturn provides this critical and skeptical eye, which will be looking at us to see whether or not we have what it takes to get through this this test that happens in the first decan of Leo. And when you put Saturn into a sign like Leo, where he is in fact in his detriment, you're going to get sort of an inverted leader. You get a leader who is maybe a leader of the dark side, which is very much in line with the Setian nature of this character, being extremely interested in this leadership of the dark side. So in Leo, at about 12 degrees, we have Pluto. So his Saturn is approaching Pluto at the time of his birth, which doubles down on everything I've just said, plus adds a more Machiavellian sort of characteristic. When I talk about Saturn, I consider Saturn to be basically one half of the Pluto archetype, along with Mars. Pluto / Hades actually traditionally you would find both of these archetypes as being fundamental to the this kind of meta archetype of Pluto. So this is definitely brings the Saturn more in line with this Plutonian characteristic, Machiavellian power struggles, trying to find things that are deeply hidden. The eighth house is also very strongly correlated to magic and otherworldly things, and as I said, to death. So, moving to his sun. Michael Aquino's sun is in the 10th house at about 22 degrees of Libra, which puts it pretty much directly on the fixed star Spica. Spica is one of the most beneficent of the um, fixed stars in the sky. It's considered to be like a sheaf of wheat that is in the Great Virgin's hand. Like it represents abundance and the ability to see how the fertile processes of the earth work. So it's a traditionally, this would have to do with agriculture and fertility. In this case, we can put it out into more into the universe of just looking, somebody who can see or wants to see how the universe truly works and has a vision of that. Also in the 10th house, we find Neptune at about 9 degrees of Libra, and that is conjunct the constellation Corvus, which is two major wings of the crow, which are Algorab and Gienah. These fixed stars are considered to be pretty negative. They have everything to do with having a bad reputation, people speaking ill of you, and perhaps a little bit of bad magic around these. And this is Neptune, and Neptune is, I would consider it to be it's very Dionysian. It has a lot to do with the dream world, the places where we receive information from around us that they're not left brain; it's very right brain. Neptune has a lot to do with deception. There's a lot of spies and actors and people who pretend to be things they're not, who have very prominent placements of Neptune, like Michael Aquino has. And of course, Michael Aquino was accused repeatedly of having been involved with child trafficking into these programs and also potentially child molestation. Some of those charges never stuck, but there apparently were a lot of them. Okay, so moving to the MC, the midheaven in this chart is actually in his 11th house. So that gives the 10th house a certain degree more of the 9th house significations, according to if we read this as a Placidus chart. I tend to combine the two because I think there's validity in both. But I don't go strictly by by Placidus because then we lose our rulership significations a lot by bisecting the houses. So when we're looking at Scorpio in this chart, which is the 11th house, the midheaven is at about 3 degrees. And we have Jupiter directly on the midheaven, basically at 4 degrees. Jupiter in the first decan of Scorpio this is a Mars decan, and having a midheaven in Scorpio completely makes sense because this character was in fact a highly well-ranked individual in the army, and Jupiter here would certainly, this is Jupiter's joy. Jupiter loves the 11th house according to the if we go by a whole sign reading of this. So Jupiter is in his house joy, where he gets to find a good audience of people who will share his beliefs and his ideas and is interested in his ideas. And this is great for somebody who starts a church that is hidden. So Scorpio is also very, of course, plutonic. It's got plutonian. It's got some, the idea of hiding things and very strong desires too. The first decan of Scorpio is thought of as a place of great, great desires and often unrequited desires. It's a Mars decan, so this is the place where Mars has one of his greatest influences. It's a water sign, so Mars has triplicity here, so that gives him extra strength. It is It is Jupiter here, so Jupiter doesn't have as much strength, but he's going to carry this very martial aspect. And in the next decan, we have Mars himself in the 14th degree of actually in the 16th degree, of Scorpio, along with Mercury. And Mars and Mercury together tends to get people who are, it's a good one for lawyers, people who are interested in the law. And he had some legal problems, apparently, and none of that stuck. These are generally people who are good at arguing. And as I said, lawyers is, that's a very strong lawyerly kind of a combination. Or people who are able to handle conflict. This is a very conflicted place. The second decan is the decan of ruled by Jupiter and by the Sun. And it's often thought of as a place of alchemy and also very strong pharmaceutical, looking into all sorts of potions and such. And as a somebody who is in MK Ultra / MK Monarch, there's a good chance he was in fact using a fair amount of pharma in order to influence people and to get them to do what he wanted them to. So the next thing we can look at is the moon in this chart, and the moon is in the 7th house in Cancer, in the second decan. The second decan of Cancer is a Mars and Mercury decan, which are in a trine to this moon, which will definitely strengthen those significations. The second decan of Cancer is a place where we have Mars, like the guard dog, sitting at the edges of a place that's maybe a secret place where people can exchange information freely and safely and honestly, which sounds very appropriate for somebody who was had an extremely high level security clearance and was also made his own church, which was doing some things that were not welcome in the mainstream. Certainly, this is a Setian church would not be something that your average person would approve of. Let's go to a few other things. So he had a couple of important other placements, which were his lot of spirit was at 19 degrees of Aries, which happens to be the sun's place of highest exaltation in the entire zodiac. So this I would give the place the lot of spirit is really connected to the you can think of it's the darkness seeking light. This is the embodied self moving towards the highest place of light. And it's a very strong leadership situation, but it's also in his fourth house, which has a strong chthonic um, underworld kind of signification to it. So it I would suspect that this is a as a young man, this because a fourth house has a lot to do with our childhood. He was probably treated like the rising sun. Like this kid could do no wrong, probably, and was um, gained a great deal of confidence and strength from his upbringing. It was Aries that was his fourth house, so this there probably was a military conflicted situation, but one in which he was most likely pretty strongly capable um, of handling. His lot of fortune is in the first degree of Libra, and the first decan of Libra is a Moon and Venus ruled territory, and this has a sort of a subversive kind of vibe to it because this is very social justice oriented. This is the place where we decide um, when are the rules being broken. When what do we do about it if we see things that we don't like? And Michael Aquino, obviously, when he was in his in this time with the Church of Satan, he clearly did, in fact, see that things were there that he didn't like, and he needed to change. So he blew the horn, and he said, enough is enough. I need to do my own thing. So, well, there's more about this chart I could certainly get into, but I'm going to call it there for now because I can only got 25 minutes with these Canva recordings. So that's a bit about Michael Aquino. I may do another one talking about length of life. He died, I believe, at 72, and I could go through that later. But if you're interested in what I've been doing here with reading this chart, you can get in touch, and I am available for readings. And I will be doing a series more of these chart delineations for other occult or characters of great interest, like Michael Aquino.